Get ready to quit the build. The QTB crew is rounding up all the gaming news and hot topics of the week with a little extra something. And here are your hosts, Bruno and Nick.
What it do? We're here.
There it is.
We're alive. And we, like I said, you're seeing how the sausage is made, people. This is why you show up. This is why. You're like, what's going on back there? I don't know if I like this or not.
That transition, like, it was the same way with Jav, like when I was on Decent Takes. Like, you have the video, but it's like you're just waiting for, like, audio to happen. There's, like, this weird, like, Twilight Zone of, like, we're, like, waiting for liftoff.
Do I speak? What do I do?
Yeah.
I'm always trying to like do the like. I don't have all my hotkeys set up. Like what I really need is one of those like Twitch stream decks. You know, where you're just like, boop, 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 and you know, you just like go to town and it's like live, and then here's a splash of color or whatever it may be. I mean, we could do all that, but you just need the gadgets, and I don't quite have that. So
ain't got it.
You know. Anyway, we're about to go live here with our episode 28,
and we've got Jav from Decent Takes. What's up, Jav?
Yo, what's up?
Oh man, tomorrow is gonna be wild because we've got both of our collab episodes dropping simultaneously. I don't think the internet's ready.
I'm not.
I don't think so.
Quite frankly,
I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not even ready, to be honest. And I'm in them.
He's like, I still have to go home actually tonight and do some work right now because you know.
Right?
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Because I'm gonna be famous tomorrow, so whatever.
Right, Twitter famous.
So soak in that last moments of going to Applebee's unnoticed, and you know.
Once they know you at Applebee's.
Please.
Yeah.
Just want to eat my Chipotle and please.
No
please.
You're in bad shape.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, they know me here. This is my usual spot right up here.
Yeah.
They actually cook my meal. It's not the pre-frozen stuff.
Yeah, or not only that, you're a regular so much that you're just one of those people. Like I used to work at a restaurant, right? And one of the things that we used to have people that would come in every week, same time, and you'd just be like, I'm just gonna go get their glass of wine ready for them because I know they're gonna be they're coming in here jonesing for it.
Drink
so.
every week.
Yeah, same thing every week. Like, you know. Old people are predictable. I don't know.
I'm looking forward to that day, though. You know, that day when you're like 65 and you go to the same diner every Sunday morning.
Right? Like you found it.
You get in there.
You found it. Is it, do you think that like they've actually found it, or do you think they just settle? They're just like, damn it, I don't feel like going anywhere anymore. Like, this'll do.
Yeah. There's always compromise.
I think that they don't realize until like the 15th time they've been there. Like, wait, have I been coming here every week?
It sneaks up on you fast.
You've been coming here every week for the last 15 years, Hank.
Yeah. I've only tried half the menu.
He orders the same thing, pastrami on rye.
Yeah. The Seinfeld setup, yeah. We're talking about Seinfeld on Decent Takes. Oh my gosh,
Don't say that word. Don't say that.
Well, we were both anti-Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Don't tell me.
Yeah.
I wasn't. No. I wasn't a big Seinfeld fan either. Like,
okay, I was about to log off.
No, like I mean, there's moments that I find really funny, and I've seen the clips of them, but I can be honest and be like, I've never really sat down and watched you know, other than the one where George Costanza does the answering machine. That's comedy gold. Like, believe it or not, George isn't at home.
Where could he be?
Believe it or not, he's not home. Love it.
Oh man.
Geez.
Alrighty, gents.
Okay.
So if you want to go ahead and just confirm that you are recording locally to avoid any
Test one. Yes, I am.
catastrophic mishaps. There we go. Test 1 2. Good to go there. All right.
Test one. There we go. Okay.
Nice.
Nick. Your name is.
Oh yes.
Yes, it's gonna be Parsippany de la Hoya. Don't know. I feel like that might have been like a boxing name or.
I can't.
This is why I have to know in advance because I have to I can't improvise that much.
I can't improvise that much. It's
like what do I even say to that?
Okay.
Yeah.
What you say to that?
Yeah.
You just accept that.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah.
All right, let me get the show notes up here so I know what I'm looking at and doing.
I can't whistle. Fun fact.
Really?
I cannot whistle. I can't whistle. Nope.
Neither of you
I used to
can?
get made fun of.
Yeah, but
I used to
Nick,
get made
you
fun
can do
of.
that really cool thing with your eyebrows that I can't do. Like you can literally like ride a wave on Nick's eyebrows. Like
There goes.
On fleek. I can flip my eyelids. Does that count?
yes,
it's a
that is like a face talent. Like there's everyone's got a face talent, right?
Hopefully.
I guess, yeah. All right, here we go.
Losers. Okay, let's get started.
What I do? Welcome to the QTB podcast. We're so glad you could join us. My name is Bruno, and with me, as always, is my childhood friend and co-host Nick Parsippany de la Hoya.
I don't know if that's my name or just a really really fancy, highfalutin drink at like a hipster bar or something,
Ooh, yeah, that does sound like something that you could. And listen, see, I mean, I'm in hipster central out here in Portland, Oregon, so I can definitely say that I've probably seen or met a Parsippany de la Hoya at some point in my travels, and they just, we didn't really know either that or like a flower child. Because I used to live, right outside of San Francisco, and if you go down Haight-Ashbury, man, all the kids are named like Flower Child. They just they're almost like gamer tags. They just go like Flower Child 1, 2, 3, and
XX Flower Child,
Flower
420,
Child, 420. Yeah, that's
right.
Actually one of them. I actually met her and gave her some change one time. So anyway, we've got an amazing episode here with a special guest, Jav from Decent Takes Podcast. How you doing, buddy?
Jav?
Good. How are you?
Oh man,
you guys ready to rock?
Yeah, it is a pleasure to have you here. I'm a big fan of your podcast, and I love the banter that you guys have. Like as soon as you jump into your podcast, it's an instant I'm hooked. I'm there. I'm ready to go. What do these guys have to say? Actually, it doesn't matter, just because I know I'm gonna have a good time, right?
It's actually really funny. One of my friends was like, "I have a question for you." And I was like, "What's up?" He goes, "Why should anybody listen to your podcast?" I was like, "I don't know."
I got nothing.
Right?
If you're asking that question, just don't listen.
I'm not important. I get it.
It's almost like when you go to the, you go to a fancy store and you're like, you go into Neiman Marcus. How much is that T-shirt right there? Well, if you've got to ask, then you can't afford it, obviously. It's $75. What? Man, that's way too much money. I bet you can get cheaper swag from the QTB shop. What? On quitthebuild.com/community. You can grab yourself an awesome T-shirt that is not $75, but it could very well be, because the Earth Ploppers are going to be the world's best basketball team one day.
Once you get the signature on that T-shirt, I don't even know the names of these guys, but I'm sure you can.
Know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me just bring up a few. We've got Crompton Cartwright.
Here he goes.
He's their point guard, right?
He's on a roll.
He's
on a roll. Don't stop him.
Ronnie Matthews. He's former singer, now turned professional Martinsburg Earth Plopper basketball player.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
The names go on. Nestor Northumberland. He's they brought him in from the UK. And boy, is he a sleeper, I tell you. So there's really, it's just awesome. It's a great team, and we're just so glad to have everybody on board. But anyway, Nick, what do we got going on today? We've got so much to talk about, and I think we have some awesome giveaways going on, right?
We do, yeah. From, of course, Pierce Unlimited. If you just leave us a review on Apple iTunes, Apple Podcasts or iTunes, and like we say, actually listen to an episode, give us an honest review, and then at the top of each month, you'll have a chance to win a prize package from our friends at Pierce Unlimited, who are also our sponsors for marketing media that works and bespoke design to power your business. Visit pierceunlimited.com. And Bruno, we got to talk about the fact that today, the day this episode airs, this is our first really big crossover with another podcast.
Yeah.
Because not only do we have Jav on here from Decent Takes, but I went on to Decent Takes to talk to those guys, it was a blast.
It was a banger, dude.
we had so much fun, and I've always said, when I see like on ESPN and they do like those bits where it's like there's a clock, and you have to give your take before the clock runs out. I'm like, I don't like what's the point of that? And then they put me on the clock, and I had so much fun. Like give and takes in 60 seconds. Job made me kill the entire Legend of Zelda franchise for some reason. And it hurt my soul.
I didn't make him do it. I didn't make him do it. But when you have a clock on, it changes things, okay?
It does.
You get down the minute to win it. You're like, wait a minute.
Exactly.
This
minute
has
to kill
go.
it. Yeah. So be on the lookout for that with the Decent Takes podcast. We'll have a link to that in our description. You can see my guest appearance on that show. So a lot of QTB and Decent Takes content to take in. I'm all about it. Yeah, but Bruno, we've got an action-packed lineup for you today, and of course, a little bit later, we're going to be talking about this now, the information coming out about a remake that was supposedly in the works at some point for The Last of Us, among some other games, as part of that Sony Bend studio, and a lot to dive into on that, because I think it's an interesting direction that Sony seems to be taking with their development tactics. And also a little bit later, we're going to be talking about this new $700 Transformers toy that was just revealed.
I thought it was only $500. Now it's $700.
Oh yeah,
man, whoa!
$700.
That's how much the price went up in just the time it took us to get on the air.
Jeez,
it's like
really? They just they're like,
yeah.
There's too much interest in this. Raise the price, people. Raise it.
Yeah.
It'll be a grand when we're done.
Yeah, I don't doubt it with the way the bots scoop up those pre-orders these days. Oh my gosh! And of course, we'll be talking a little bit more with Jav about the Decent Takes podcast and what you can expect with that high quality banter. I tell you. But first of all, the big article for today, in compliments of IGN, PlayStation Studios is hiring a head of mobile. This is a job position. Senior position that was just recently posted. So it sounds like they're very much in the early phase of trying to pivot to mobile, at least in some capacity. This is something that like 4 or 5 years ago, if you had told me that, in 2021, we would have Nintendo, we would have Sony, and in a certain sense with Game Pass on mobile, having Xbox in that arena, right? Like it's a completely different world now for gaming, and that's awesome. But this is definitely something I would not have expected from Sony. And so, what we found out was that the senior position title, that has been posted, they're saying that they're going to be adapting some of the company's most popular franchises to mobile. In this job listing that was shared, it's going to be based out of California, and and this is a quote, promote the vision, mission, and strategy for the mobile game development within PlayStation Studios. So it really sounds like it's an entirely new venture for them from the ground up. And that makes sense because they really have not been in the mobile game space. That they're going to say you will own and develop the mobile game strategy for PlayStation Studios, help build a foundation for future growth opportunities, all the job position, bullet points, all that kind of thing, right?
A marketing ninja and a social media guru. Woohoo!
Something synergy, right?
Right, yeah.
all the buzzwords. Yes, but they did specify that besides expanding mobile game development for the job, they require a focus on successfully adapting PlayStation's most popular franchises for mobile. And boy, that is an interesting conversation. So, we see that there's going to be about a roadmap of about 3 to 5 years in order to start rolling out these games. Yeah. So, Bruno, my question is, are we finally going to experience a God of War endless runner?
I'm hoping so. I need something while I'm pooping, right? Temple Run can only get me so far. And I got to tell you, isn't it ironic that all these runner games like are mostly played on the toilet when you have the runs? Like, I've got the run, so I'm going to do the run. Like, let's do this God of War run. Like,
You might be the
I'm
only
not sure
person.
that tracks. I'm not sure that tracks.
Listen, we've got new data in, and it's apparently most people play our games when they're pooping. So I guess that's
The numbers.
The numbers.
Yeah.
Numbers don't lie.
You
Yeah.
gotta have something quick. You gotta have something that can be done in both 30 seconds and 30 minutes, because we know that, you know, men take way
Jeez.
longer in the bathroom than women. Like, I don't know what it is, but my wife just sends me encouraging texts like, "You got it, honey. You can do it," you know, and they're just to make sure I'm okay. And that's the kind of support you need, guys. So if your woman doesn't send you encouraging texts while you're on the pooper, then what is even marriage about? What are we even doing?
Welcome to the show, Jav.
Yeah. I must say I disagree with the tempo run and the runs. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like if I have the runs, I pull out the newspaper like a classy gentleman. I don't know.
That's how you do it.
Or
you know,
listen, the way I used to do it was, you know, you grab the shampoo bottle. What is on the back of the shampoo bottle? I need to read all the ingredients off of there. That was the real winner, because, I mean, if you could pronounce half those things. Why do you do the same
because
thing?
you're like, I sit down on the toilet, I grab the shampoo bottle. I was like, wait, what? What are you about to do with the shampoo bottle?
what's it?
You know what I mean.
And then you're like, read it, and I was like,
we're reading it. We're reading it. Yeah. You gotta have something to read in there. I'm not gonna just stare at the wall like a psycho. That's weird.
Right. Oh
I'm
boy.
scrolling through Twitter, or I'm joining a live QTB space on Twitter on the toilet.
That's right. One of the first Twitter spaces. Oh, geez. But yeah, you know,
man.
it's interesting to me because, like, I again, I never would have expected a move like this from Sony. So we know that, you know, Nintendo in the last like 6 or 7 years, they finally made the jump into mobile gaming, and we thought for the longest time that was never going to happen because they're so protective of their IPs, but they're finally starting to kind of break down those barriers and be like, okay, you can make a movie, and okay, you can make a mobile game. And that's how Pokemon Go happened, right?
Yeah.
Like they said to the Niantic that was part of Google, like, okay, you can make a game with our IP, but we're watching. We're watching.
Close.
You give us another Super Mario Brothers movie, and oh boy. But yeah, so, you know, Mario.
My gosh,
like, just,
if you give us another Super Mario Brothers movie, God help you, I swear.
They ruined it for everybody.
They did.
Absolutely
Well,
they
I
did.
think it was this is the thing is, you have to wonder at what point during the production, from like the pitch of Super Mario to the actual implementation of the film itself, that things just went south. I want a Netflix documentary. I don't want a Netflix documentary anymore, or any more of this Fire Festival or WeWork or any of that stuff. I want it. No more crime junkies or anything like that. We want the truth. We want the truth behind it.
Did you get to see that movie, Jeff?
Which movie?
The Super Mario Brothers live action movie?
No, I saw clips of it and I was like, no.
That's good.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah, that's
You
what
don't-
most people,
No.
most normal people would do.
Yeah. It's not even like the fun kind of bad where it's like you can, you know, riff on it or something. It's like, this is an embarrassment to just a boy. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
believe we haven't let John Leguizamo live that down. That's what blows my mind.
I don't think John Leguizamo let himself live that down. I don't.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
Yeah, that's how careers end. But no,
That's a forever stain
yeah.
on life. Not even on career, but on life. Like, you have to go home and lay next to your wife and think about you doing that.
Yeah.
His kids
No more
are like,
encouraging text on the toilet.
Could you imagine every time you saw a Nintendo or Mario game, you'd be reminded of your you'd be reminded of
failures.
that,
It just
like,
triggers
your
you.
failures. The fact they just opened up a Nintendo world, and you're just thinking like to yourself, if my kids want to go here, I'm screwed. Like I'm literally
Oh,
screwed.
for sure. Never taking my kids there. I'm gonna act like it doesn't even exist.
Yep.
Wow.
Super who?
We're going to Disney World. Get out
There
of
you
here.
go. Yeah. All right. But yeah, you know, a lot of these games, looking at all the free-to-play models that Nintendo has come out with, they've had a lot of success. So obviously they're going to keep that train rolling, right? Mario Kart Tour made $75 million in the first 90 days. Animal Crossing Pocket Camp. And this is why when people are like, oh, where's the content for Animal Crossing New Horizons? It's in Animal Crossing Pocket Camp because they've made over $150 million in sales lifetime.
Of course.
and can continue to milk that gacha style of gameplay. Of course, Pokemon Go. Do I even need to say that? Like, we're talking billions.
Yes,
over 4 billion in revenue.
Yeah.
At least as of 2020. And they stepped their game up because with the pandemic, they added all those like features where you could play from home. After all those years of being like, we want you to go out and experience the world, and they're like, okay, don't do
please
it. Don't. Please don't catch that Charmander.
Nasty place.
Yeah. Sure is.
That's why we
just coughing everywhere.
Why we play video games, right? To escape the world. We want to go out into the world.
Yeah. But
play games about being in the world in order to not be in the world.
Exactly. Sometimes I just drive around in Grand Theft Auto just for fun, right?
right.
From the grocery store.
It's really bad that I know the entire GTA map better than I know like my, the Portland area. I have no clue what's in my backyard, but like I can get you from point A to point B in GTA like that, boy.
No GPS.
Right? Yeah.
Sorry,
Absolutely.
Nick. Go ahead. Do your thing.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. This show is just nothing but tangents. That's just how we operate, right?
Yeah,
it is.
I get through a few bullet points and then we talk about something. That's how we do things.
That's part of the magic that is the QTB podcast, because I'm like a Marlin. And Nick's got to reel me in, He's like, oh, got me a big one, Yeah. So every now and then he just amazes me with how he's like, and we're gonna reel him back in because there's so.
Were we
many
talking about Sony
games.
at some point? I think that was the article. Yeah.
Without Nick, this show would turn into Decent Takes.
Good to know. That's the alternate timeline. Oh man, but so I mean, here's the thing though, and this is where I get concerned about Sony, is that when you look at the way, so the first thing that Nintendo tried to do before they went into true free-to-play is they released Super Mario Run.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like a Mario, runner game where it was like a one-tap gameplay, tap to jump, and that's it. Mario was always running. And they gave you like a free demo. You could play a couple levels, and then out of nowhere, it's like, oh, hey, pay the full price, which at the time I think was like $10. And you would get full access to the game. Now, most free-to-play games are just smartphone games. They were never going to do something like that. And I think as a result of that, a lot of people like myself that may have stuck with the game longer term simply just dropped it right at that point. And so and Nintendo has come out and said, hey, this game was a failure. So I think that Nintendo's pivot that rapidly is going to be the bellwether for any other, major company like Sony to get in the market, that they're going to go straight for that free-to-play style. And of course, I have to say that's a concern for me. Because now, you're looking at, they're bringing over all of these games that you recognize, but now you're going to get into all of the usual problems, right? Like, oh, we're bringing out Street Fighter, which is going to happen. Like, they're going to bring Street Fighter in.
I want that so bad. Like, that's the one thing I miss from like the Xbox, like, library of games, really. I think the last one they have available on there is like the Xbox 360 title, Street Fighter, what was that, 4?
Yeah, that one and the one, was it Marvel vs. Capcom? I guess you don't call that a Street Fighter game, but there was characters, right?
No,
from it.
That's on there, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you're right. How do we, like, that's the thing that's always been the Achilles heel of mobile games, is the fact that they don't know how to monetize them properly, or get over the fact that, like, maybe you can go down the Angry Birds route and just release it for 99 cents or $1.99 and rake in the money, because I mean, honestly, that's how they did it for the longest time. It was just like, here's Angry Birds Lite. You can play a couple levels with this, or you can download the full version after you pay 99 cents or $1.99. And Angry Birds was one of the most played mobile games for the longest time. It probably still ranks in the top 5 at least. So I can't imagine that there's other ways than just like, well, we're going to make it free to play and then just throw in ads or make, a paywall every time you get to a certain level. That would suck.
And we'll be talking about this later, but Sony's focus has been on big AAA games, right? And so it's a weird pivot. And I guess my question for you, Jav, is, do you think there are any big PlayStation exclusive IPs that would make like a good transition into mobile gaming?
No. Not at all. I mean, the thing is, like, if we have Street Fighter on mobile, I'm obviously going to download it. In fact, I'd probably even pay for it just because if there's a multiplayer and you imagine like sitting in a room with your friends and you're like, let's just jump on Street Fighter rather than booting up the PS5.
Yeah.
We can just play it on our phones. Like that's a big win. But my fear is that if it's free to play, they may not put in the same amount of work that they would have if they were going to make more money off of it. Or it's going to be like round 1 brought to you by Squarespace. And like
Watch this ad.
yeah, like
Yeah,
I guess both sides kind of suck. Like I don't want to pay $10 for it on my phone, but I also don't want to deal with ads or a very watered down game.
for sure.
If that makes sense. Spider-Man could be dope on mobile though.
I think they need to do something more in terms of like cross-play when it comes to these types of games, where maybe there's an alternative incentive for buying a mobile game that, you know, maybe you get a free, you know, let's say Street Fighter comes out, you know, on mobile, and they're like, you know, here's the mobile game, it's, you know, $5 to buy or whatever, but if you buy it, you also get like a couple exclusive skins for the PlayStation 5, you know, version of the game that's coming out, or maybe it's an exclusive car for like Gran Turismo. You know, these types of things would be an easy incentive for someone to jump over and be like, okay, yeah, like I was already considering buying the game on mobile anyway, or you know, I was interested in playing it. You know, now that I'm going to get something else for like the big game, if you want to call it that, you know, it holds a little more value. So there's other ways they can get people on board with it, but how are you going to make something like this, you know, not only fun, but at the same time not drag people through the mud with ads or, you know, some certain paywalls or that timing thing that they always do, like you've got to wait another 13 hours.
Energy systems are the worst.
Yeah, those are
I deal
so
with that
bad.
on Candy Crush. Don't
Yeah.
Right?
Judgment free zone.
Judgment free.
You do you.
So what if they did a subscription model on mobile? So kind of like PS Plus or Game Pass, but it was just a mobile thing where you pay what, $4.99 a month,
Okay.
and you get all the exclusives and you can play them all.
That would be.
'Cause that's the only other way I could think of.
They would have to come out with a nice library of mobile games to start with, which would be pretty amazing. It would definitely be something that no other system has really done before. Like Nintendo didn't really do that. They kind of tested the waters a little bit. So for them to go like all of their eggs in that basket would be a huge risk for PlayStation.
But they need a huge win right now. I mean, they're not circulating in the market at all. Nobody's talking about anything other than getting scalped on a PS5.
Yeah.
So Sony needs something.
Yeah, that's very true. And you know, for longtime listeners of our show, you'll know that while we like to give, you know, Xbox Game Pass its praise and whatnot, it's not that we want to see PlayStation fail in any way. We want it to succeed because, like I said, for the longest time, the PlayStation, you know, series of consoles was my go-to. You know, PS2, PS1 were so impactful in my life. And then, you know, when Xbox 360 came out, I kind of splitted ways. I still got a PS3, still got a PS4, but now we're into this next gen, and I know how hard it is to get a PS5, and I know that the exclusive games that they've announced haven't really, you know, materialized and aren't for like maybe the next year. So what's the need in, you know, even getting one? I don't even have an Xbox Series X. So as an Xbox fanboy, I'm not even on board with the next gen console. Like, of course I'm not going to be on board with PlayStation. So you're right. I want some of those older games. I think that would bring me back definitely. Or if they went down the route of more exclusive third party title games, like if they got exclusivity for Grand Theft Auto again, game over. Like, I mean, that would be a huge win for them. The Street Fighter series itself being, you know, we were talking about that before, but that being an exclusive to PlayStation is a huge blow to you know, to Xbox. So
I agree.
And them buying Evo, right? Like that's such a sign, and this, now they're moving into mobile. Sony's trying to pivot here. Like, they're trying to get with the times and understand that Microsoft is attacking them on a lot of different fronts, and they can't just get there with, here's our big AAA games, here's our exclusive. Like, they've got to diversify their portfolio and fast. So when you talk about a subscription style service, their job, Google does that. They have like a Google Arcade like subscription, I think it is. I've never tried it, but it's like a Game Pass style thing where you pay a certain amount per month, and there's this huge library of games that you can just download for free, and it rotates and that kind of thing. So, I mean, it's not unheard of. I really wonder if the amount of content that you would see in these games on day one would be enough to warrant it. But I think you're right. That's the only way that I would hop into these things, because I don't care how good a game is. The moment that you hit me with time walls or paywalls just to continue playing a game, you're never going to get another penny from me. It's just not going to happen.
And I think that if Sony were to pursue a subscription model, unlike Google's gaming thing, Google isn't really known for their games. So most people probably have never even heard of this arcade. I haven't until this very moment. And so if Sony was going to go, okay, so if you have PS Plus, you also get a 30-day trial to our new mobile thing.
Yeah.
And then boom, drop a subscription. Even if it has like 10 games for $5 a month, I think that.
I mean, you could even do a bundle package, right? Like you could say you could have PS Plus and what's the other one? Is it PS Now? Is that what it is?
Yep.
Yeah, so you can have
live
like
streaming.
Let's say if they're gonna rebrand PS Now and have PS Now have a mobile version along with the actual console version. I mean, that'd be similar to the Game Pass, right? And then all you gotta do is start feeding in some of those old titles. Like, don't neglect the old titles and feel like you've just got to put out new content, because honestly, you throw in some Jedi power battles in there or something like that, I would be all over that. Even classic like PS2 games or PS1 games. I mean, all the old Crash Bandicoot games you could put on there. Spyro. I mean, come on. These types of games and IPs that Sony has in their back catalog definitely need to be brought to modern consoles again, because we love them and we're still playing them.
And then if they want to drop an absolute bomb on the game, they need to go acquire the rights to Flappy Bird and bring it back exclusive on the Sony mobile app.
Like we joke, but like you're right. Like that would make headlines.
They could really bring it back.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
Oh my gosh.
That was so crazy. It's so crazy how things like float in and out of the just pop culture sphere of what is popular at a moment, and all the like subsequent like knockoffs of that game. Because it really wasn't anything new. I mean, it wasn't anything that we haven't played before with like a helicopter going through. Yeah, there you go. It's Kirby. Yeah.
Pretty much. I actually talked about this on Decent Takes, but on my phone, I'm like reluctant to upgrade my phone because I still have the original Flappy Bird installed on it, right? It got pulled from the store. The developer was like, he didn't like how people were obsessing over it, and he's like, I'm done. And so that's what people tried to. And so, yeah, like if I uninstall Flappy Bird, like it's gone, but I can still play it. Like it's still fully functional. That's and amazing. I don't want to upgrade my phone now.
You're stuck.
I'm stuck forever. So, but now let me throw something in here, Job, because we were talking about the PSP and the PS Vita, on Decent Takes as well. And I know that one of the cooler features of the PS Vita was that you could connect it to, I think it was the PS4. Or the PS3, whatever gen was out at that point. And there were certain games that you could use the Vita as a controller with the Vita as a heads-up display. And, it's interesting that this news comes out right at the same time that we knew that the PSP and the Vita were shuttering their online stores. How amazing would it be if they made this just E3 bombshell announcement that they were bringing back the PSP and Vita libraries onto mobile? And then, you can buy like a peripheral or something to play those games. I would be all in. That would be
the winner right
Nick
there.
Back in with Sony.
That'd get him out of the mud, right? Like that'd get him unstuck from this situation. Because we see these types of things of like, they're pulling it from they're pulling the PS3 store and they're pulling these things. And as gamers, we just see this and we see the death of a game. And that's never fun, regardless of what aisle you stand on in terms of your console preference. Same thing with Nintendo pulling the 35th anniversary of Mario. Like it's just sad and weird. You're just like, this is weird. Like it's why is this happening? So, to pull something like that and then to give it back to the community would be a huge win for PlayStation. And I think they would get a bunch of people back on board with that. Not just you, but myself included. I would be like, okay, I can see the value of something like this now if I've got a back catalog of games that I can, have access to. I mean, because that's the sell of Xbox Game Pass, right? Like that's why it's so awesome. I just hop on there and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try out Madden this time, or I'm gonna try out NBA 2K1 and see what that's about. I've never bought one of those games in my entire life and never planned on ever buying one of them again. So the fact that it was free was like, for me, I'm like, okay, this is a win. I can try it out, have fun for a little bit, and then, uninstall when I'm done.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one thing I did like a little bit more from PlayStation was the ability to stream a game rather than having to download it. Granted, the connection sometimes sucks or whatever, but that is something that Sony definitely had going for them with this new generation.
And that's one interesting thing about the Xbox Game Pass too, is that if you have it on mobile, you can honestly try games on mobile, because that's the xCloud is the same thing, right? Like you can stream games from your phone, so you're not actually downloading them. So it's honestly quicker sometimes to hop on your phone and try out a game instead of downloading the full thing on your console to get full access to it.
Yeah, it's a handy feature. It's just that for both PS Now and to a lesser extent, I think Xbox Game Pass on mobile, the problem is still the input latency. I think they have to figure out how to get the data centers closer and more localized to get that ping down, because when you're playing any kind of game that requires aiming, and you're looking at like a 100 millisecond delay between you inputting a command and it happening on screen, man, it's an immersion breaker. And it makes it something that is more of a novelty of, like you said, I'm going to try a game rather than like, this is how I'm going to continue to come back and play a game time and time again. But yeah,
they could get that together and then stream all their mobile library in one app. So a PS Now mobile, whatever.
Yeah.
Launch all their games in there and you can play all of them from that app. That's not destroying all the space on your phone. I mean, that would be so addicting to somebody.
Huge.
Oh. Especially if you can hook up the Razer Kishi with it, grab something that. Over.
And you think about how loyal, the Sony fan base is, the people that, that will follow Sony to wherever they go. Nothing wrong with that. I think that would be a huge, huge hype mode for them. Like I said, boy, take some notes, Sony. Like if you came out last second with everything we just said at E3, like you're back in the spotlight for a long time. So
we'll take our consulting fee later. We'll take that later. Thanks. You can just mail it.
We give out so many freebies,
We'll take a free transformer.
That's true. Yep. And at the price tag we'll be talking about, that's the only way I'm going to be getting one. So we'll be talking about that and some other stories right after this. That's the sound we make.
That's the sound. That's the sound.
All right. What's going on, everybody in chat? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Quiet chat tonight. People are watching.
Yeah.
They be here.
They're here. One guy came in and was like, I don't want to listen anymore because then I won't have anything to listen to at work. I'm like, that's a fair point. You'll already heard the podcast.
Yeah. That's always been my thought about the whole streaming the podcast while it's going. I'm like, what if you wanted to listen to it later? Too late.
Like most places that talk about like what you want to do, when you're like trying to get exposure for a show, for a podcast, they're like live streaming is big, and it sounds like it runs counter. Like we're giving you the show now, but I don't know. It seems like the people that listen will follow up. So please do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, there he goes. Nighttime mode.
Hey. That transition. Right. You just gotta.
There it is.
I don't know why. You know why? Because it's the check this out. Check this.
Uh-oh.
Because it does this. It does this
Got a button.
weird thing.
Nope. What was
There
that?
it
My
is.
stream is so far behind, so I don't even know what I'm looking for.
I don't know
There we
either.
go. There we go. I lightened it up a little bit so it's not so dark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
My stream's still watching the intro. No, I'm just kidding.
Nice.
It just says
Nice.
starting soon, starting soon.
Yeah.
He's answering questions from like 20 minutes ago.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let me bring us back in here. All right. It is 3:57 p.m. and you afternoon warriors, we thank you for listening and tuning in to QTB, the Quit the Build talk show, Quit the Build podcast, Quit the Build, Quit the Build. We're just going to call it, all those things. We're just going to say it until it sinks into your mind. QTB, like that. Anyway, Nick, what do we got going on? You mentioned something about Transformers and being really expensive, and then that kind of got me sad because I realized I wasn't going to be able to buy it, but it sounded cool. What was it?
Well, yeah. So it was this new toy that got released, and it's a $700 toy that it's very state of the art. There was just a reveal kind of trailer for it, previewing what it's going to look like. And it's from Hasbro. Of course, they have the license for Transformers, partnering with RoboSen Robotics.
Wow.
And they are a company specializing in programmable robots. That they're basically making this fully operational Transformer that will actually transform from a vehicle into a full bipedal walking Transformer. This thing is very big scale wise. It's probably like a couple feet tall. And yeah, the price tag on this is a ridiculous $700. This article is from Polygon. So yeah, this was revealed during the Hasbro Pulse Fan Fest. It will be capable of, again, transforming on its own with the press of a button. Comes with some other features. It's going to be like one of those smartphone apps you can use to talk, and it'll, convert your voice into Optimus Primes through the robot.
What?
I mean, that's
kind of dope.
it's cool,
really
but
cool.
like you can get like voice changers like that for like dirt cheap on app stores. Like,
But do your voice changers walk around your house? I don't
well, no,
think so.
that's true. That's true. Yeah,
They don't, but
but-
I mean, sometimes you can just turn on the voice changer and be like,
I'm Megatron, leader of the Decepticons.
and then, all of a sudden, you're a Transformer in there. So
Yeah.
don't ask me to do Optimus Prime. He's got less of a
that's right.
harsh
Yeah.
voice.
So the full breakdown of features on this thing, comprehensive set of functions, automatical. Yeah, that's a word.
It is.
Yeah, automatical boys.
Yeah,
Yeah, boy.
it will walk around in robot form, which I don't know if you've seen the video for this thing, but it's kind of goofy looking. And also some robot control and commands. At one point during the video, it was doing like push-ups, and I'm like, what?
Hey, getting those
Oh.
gains.
Yeah.
Just get
Let's
right.
go.
That was my
Start doing
favorite part of
burpees.
Transformers, when Optimus Prime just started doing some reps,
Yeah, when he went to Planet Fitness.
getting
Yeah, I remember
swole.
that.
Yeah.
When he went to
Like-
Planet
like-
Fitness. When he started a crossover promotion with the Peloton.
Can you imagine Optimus Prime on a Peloton?
It would be funnier if he turned into a Peloton. Like,
Yeah, exactly. That's the cross
There we go.
promotion.
That's it
Yeah.
right there.
Oh my gosh. But
Introducing the modern technology of Transformers and Peloton. Not only when you're done the Peloton, you can have a personal trainer who will make you feel just as bad.
Now, Job, I have to ask you, because I know that
Yep.
we talked about in the pre-show that you're a fan of Transformers. So my question is, with a price tag like that, do you think that their slogan should be more than meets your wallet?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, get a second mortgage on your house and get this Transformer because it's worth it. It means more than daycare. It means more.
Right?
Priorities,
than food.
people.
Who needs to feed those kids? Like, get the Transformer.
Kids,
It'll be
listen,
worth something. Yeah.
we're gonna
It's the
have
obvious choice.
bread sandwiches and and ice chips
What-
for a
What's a bread
month.
sandwich?
What? You
please
never
explain
had a bread sandwich over here?
I have, but I want
Jeff
the
never had a
listeners to
bread
know what a bread
sandwich.
sandwich is.
Ooh, that's rough.
Oh,
I've been
man.
on the ramen lifestyle. I tell you what. Yep. Oh man, but it's absolutely wild that like you see price tags like this, and I get it. We've talked about this before that the kind of millennial era and before a little bit before and after of toys and things we grew up with. Like we're reaching a point now where not only are they making movies about our the stuff we grew up with and creating merchandise that caters to us, but they're going high end too, of like, hey, you can have this really cool thing. We're gonna go all out on it, but it's going to cost you. And it's obviously being marketed not towards kids, but just loaded parents that they see that and they want. And here's the ploy. Here's the ploy, right?
It's for my kid.
You're gonna as a dad, you're gonna frame this as, or a mom, if you're into Transformers, you say, okay, we're gonna get this for the kids.
Yeah.
Little Timmy is gonna love this Optimus Prime.
Tim's gonna
it's
love
worth
it.
the money. He's gonna be playing with this thing so much.
Yep.
You're gonna get it out. You're gonna play with it one time, and here's why it's never going to work out. This thing has 22 functioning servo motors. It's like when people buy
That's a nightmare.
Yeah, like when people buy pinball machines, right? It sounds like such a cool idea. Like I have a working pinball machine in my home, and then one thing goes wrong with it. One rubber band snaps. One wire, goes haywire. And now like you're looking at like crazy repairs that maybe you can't even get done, because there's all these moving pieces and parts, and like there's just no way this thing is going to survive like one or two falls. Again, the way that Optimus Prime walks, it looks like one of those wind-up toys, with the little like flat feet.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, this Optimus Prime has fallen over. We're going to call him Optimus Supine. I'll be here all night, folks.
I mean,
Well, that's how you know it's not made for kids.
yeah.
Because if you know it's gonna break, it's not made. Nothing that can break is made for kids, because kids can break almost anything.
Yeah.
Right.
So when they put in those 20 motors, they're like, oh, this is for the dad that's gonna have it in his room and pretend it's for his kids.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
They should just market it that way and just have the dads playing with it, with like, the kid coming in and being like, Dad, can I play with it? And they're just like, no, get out of here, son. This is Daddy's toy. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Go play with your little
Don't play your
action
mom.
figure.
Don't
Yeah.
play your mom.
Go get your little one. This is not for you. This is for adults. I know it looks like a toy, but it's not. You ever have to have that conversation with your kid?
Definitely.
No,
Now,
it looks like a toy.
yeah. Now, Job, here's my question for you. What was the most expensive like collector's like item like that you ever purchased?
I don't really spend money on anything. So,
Smart man.
Like, I hustled as a kid, man. Like,
Yeah.
I had the Yu-Gi-Oh arm thing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I played a kid for it. I played him. Weird enough, I played him in Pokemon to get his Yu-Gi-Oh thing, and then started playing the other kids in Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
And then his mom was like, "You stole that from my kid." I'm like, "Nah, your kid sucks. Get him better cards, and maybe he'll get it back."
He kept activating my
Took
trap
it.
cards. Like, what do you want? That's that's life. Man, Yu-Gi-Oh was like the Pogs of like the next generation after,
It
right?
really
Like
was.
of like
Oh,
you're playing
yeah.
for keeps. Like it's serious stuff. Like
It was. It was
Pokemon
real stuff.
cards were like the gateway, but then Yu-Gi-Oh was where things got hardcore.
I could always tell
Yep.
those kids that played Yu-Gi-Oh in school too, because they would usually they had this certain walk to them, and it was a walk of determination. Like they were about to walk into battle. No one else knew that they were walking into battle, but they did. And it was like an anime when you're just like watching, you're just like, but you're one of the normal bystanders in the background that has no clue. It's not one of the main characters. You're just the NPC, and you're like, something's about to happen. I don't know, but it looks big. They go to the cafeteria table, sit down, and you're just like, and it's the most intense thing that's ever going to happen right then and there in that little square. And you're just like, I wish I knew what was going on.
Well, mainly because there's little to no banter beforehand. It's just like you sit down and you start. Like once we're in the game, you are no longer a human to me. You are my enemy. And
So it's like boxing, when they come out, they've got the hood on, and they're just getting in the zone. Like, here we go. You're the champ.
Yeah.
Part of the cards, baby.
You got the hype man behind you. You got the deck. You got this deck. You got it.
That reminds me of the 1 week And I literally mean 1 week that I got into competitive Magic the Gathering at a local hobby shop because they had like the Friday Night Magic thing that they do a lot at a lot of these places. And I came with like my starter deck and a couple booster. It was a terrible deck, but I just wanted to come and have fun and meet friends and just like play Magic. But the way that it's formatted is like you're matched up against people and you play out your games, and there's a winner and there's a loser. And these people were not there to have fun.
Nope.
Like they were,
not
they were
at
not
all.
there to enjoy themselves.
Nope.
Like it was serious business. So literally, I remember I played. There's like 3 or 4 matches you would play over the course of the day, and I got trounced on my second round. And it wasn't even to be like about being a sore loser. Like I just recognized really early on what was happening, and I'm like, you know what? I'm out. Like I walked out. I lost that game. I left.
Wait.
Yeah.
Is this before or after you lost?
Oh, it was after I lost.
Because if you walking out doesn't count if you lost. You lost. You had to leave. They're like, sir, you need to go. Like, I want a rematch. And they're like, no, you have to go, sir.
Sir, this is a Wendy's. But no, like there was 2 more matches left to play, so like I was supposed to stick around and play them, but I'm just I'm out.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
I'm not having any fun. Even if I was winning the games, like that, this is not for me. But man, it's you're right though. It is, it's just crazy when people want to sink that kind of money. And you're right, like Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, that kind of thing. Like those hobbies get so expensive so fast that it's just like, before you know it, you're spending crazy money. And I could never be a big enough fan of something that I would buy a $700 collectible. Now I say that with an amiibo collection that's probably worth more. But I buy it and it's an installment plan. I get the Mario, I get the Samus, I get the Pikachu, and
What if they
if I
come
didn't
out
spend all
with
my
like,
money on instruments, I would have cool stuff.
Yeah.
But all I have is instruments.
Instruments are so expensive. Like my wife, when I first started, like, because for the longest time I lived in an apartment, I couldn't have like, a real drum set. We finally, bought our own house and, moved in and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, I want to get like a drum set again. And so I'm having to explain to her like how cymbals are made. And I'm like, listen, it takes 30 days to make one cymbal. Like it's melted down and hand lathed and cut. Like that's why they're $300 for one cymbal.
Prepping her for the cost.
Prepping her for the cost. Like, because it's true. And then, I always tell her, I'm like, listen, drums by far are one of the most expensive instruments you can be a part of. Like Nick's a keyboard player and you play guitar, right? So what's the most expensive instrument that like you have? Like what's the most expensive one that you bought?
I have a 3/4 size Taylor acoustic electric Ecoa, and that ran me I think $1,200.
There you go, right? Nick, what about you? What was your keyboard?
This one over here next to me was free. That was from my in-laws. The keyboard upstairs was a graduation present, like 10 years, like well, even more than that, like a high school graduation present. So $0, Bob.
$0.
Price is wrong.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I've got like $500 hi-hats over there, $300 pedal. All the heads on the drum cost me like, I think it was like $100 or something like that, $120 for all the heads. The stands,
Yeah.
then you got to buy the
15K.
stands. Yeah.
So all we need is a bassist,
thing.
right? And we got a band.
Right? Yes. Let's do
Yeah.
this.
I have a
ready.
bass. I'm just really bad at it.
Can you play both at the same time, guitar and
Oh
bass?
yeah, I play bass with my feet.
Oh, nice. See,
you go.
right there is our selling point. We'll just be like feet bass. And
That'd be the band name.
that'd be the band
Foot
name,
bass.
feet bass, because I mean, you're already interested. You're already intrigued, and you're like, wait a minute, does he play the bass with his feet? And then you dive in a little deeper, and you realize he does. This just
Can you
became like
imagine that? Oh,
No, that's
Well,
no,
somebody
it's
having
not.
that type
talk
of
about-
dexterity on their toes, like
Yeah.
to be able to. Oh, dude.
you're
Yeah.
really bringing the stank. You bring,
For
they
real.
when they talk about
The
bringing
absolute stank.
with the funk, you're like, oh, this is stanky. Like,
Oh my gosh,
Somebody
man.
comes over there like, "Can I play your bass?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
Might
Well,
wanna wash
much
your
like the
hands
Optimus
after that.
Prime toy, that is very much a novelty act. So I mean, it's crazy that, like I said, $700. Like, yeah, you could buy like a really nice musical instrument. You could buy a PS5, probably even at scalping prices these days. You could buy an Xbox Series X. Like, I could never imagine having the kind of disposable income where I'm like, that is the thing for me. But I mean, look, the pre-orders are up. They obviously, run the numbers on this kind of stuff. They know what their fan base is like, and people will pay just absurd amounts of money. Now, I will say, if it was a Megazord from Power Rangers,
oh man, game
or
over,
like a Voltron situation, Nick might be, getting some credit inquiries.
Listen, that was the most like difficult, and it's so great that it happened during a time in my life when I was absolute broke, like didn't have a pot to piss in, broke, like that's
right.
That's how broke I was. Because do you remember the legacy stuff that they came out with like I think it was a few years ago? They came out with the only thing I got was the Morpher. I got the Green Ranger, White Ranger, Morpher. But they re-released all of our toys from the 90s, like the Morpher, the gun. They had like the Megazord, all that stuff, and it was like the Legacy collection.
That's right.
New and improved from I don't know who actually created the toys. Well, it might have been Hasbro.
So, that's why it got re-released, is that Hasbro bought Power Rangers, like the IP.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, and so they're like, of course, like Hasbro's all about, that's why they did it. It's the toys.
Yeah.
So they're just let's re-release everything, and just, like I said, they're not just targeting kids anymore. They're going after the people with the money,
right?
who make the purchases. So it is obviously working. Well, crazy stuff. But we got another article to dive into here, and that is about the supposed Last of Us remake that kind of got canned. This article compliments of Bloomberg. There was a small team that had big ambitions for the Last of Us remake by the article, but Sony ended up kind of saying, you know what, we're going to give this to our own people. And this is kind of telling. We were talking before with Sony. And them moving into mobile, like that very much runs counter to their PS5 strategy, and even PS4 strategy, I think, of make the AAA blockbuster games that you cannot miss, make them exclusive, and that's how you bring people into the fold. But so we know, of course, The Last of Us, I think it was made back in like 2013. Has it been 8 years?
Wow.
That is crazy town. Wow, 2013.
Getting old.
Yeah. Yeah, so but they of course had the Last of Us 2 recently, and supposedly, they had a smaller studio that was working on a remake of The Last of Us that ended up getting kind of taken away from them at the last second. So Sony Bend, there's also an article in this about how Days Gone 2 essentially got canned. Like they tried to pitch it. And that's a shame. I know I haven't played Days Gone, but I've seen a lot of people still streaming that game to this day. It's a really popular title. That post-apocalyptic game, the guy on the motorcycle.
Yeah.
It's.
I always see the same clips of it, though. You know what I mean? It's always like the guy running away from like a horde of zombies. It's always the same. Like it's like the E3 footage. I always see that bit, just like in different different people playing that scene. So to me, like, I never saw anything more than just that. So I don't know that there's actually anything left to the game. I believe that you just jump in and you just right there running away from all that, and then it just ends. Like that's all I've ever seen of the game. So
complete walkthrough, 10 minutes.
Right, and you're done. You're done.
Yeah, like in those narrative heavy games, that's kind of what it comes down to in clips, right? Like, even if it's an open world experience, if the open world content isn't like dynamic enough, then most people are going to be highlighting the same like big scenes and the like the oh my god moments and twists from when the story takes turns or something cool happens, like a horde of zombies. Apparently Days Gone 2 just didn't happen, but that's part of the bigger story. So Bloomberg put out this report about how a lot of Sony's smaller studios that produce games for them, or rather develop games for them, have been kind of expressing their dissatisfaction because it seems like a lot of the games that they're working on get passed on to bigger studios rather than themselves. So The Last of Us remake, and it was initially codenamed T1X.
Sounds like a Terminator.
It does, yeah.
That's what they're going to call the T1000. This was before the T1000, the T1X.
T1X.
Heck yeah, T1X boys.
But yeah, one of the guys that was working for that project, the founder of a visual arts service that had, they help make PlayStation games. It was this 30 strong group, according to the article. And they had a lot of game ideas that kind of came and went, like remaking an Uncharted game, which I'm surprised hasn't happened yet. And eventually they landed on The Last of Us, and they said, okay, well let's remake it. But Sony wouldn't give them any agency. They're like, okay, well you can work on it, but we're not going to give you any extra budget. We're not going to give you any kind of access to publicity. It's going to be a secret project under wraps, just your team. But then once they decided that the project was too expensive, okay, and they couldn't meet budget demands, they just moved a bigger studio in to kind of take it away from them. And so ultimately the remake became a Naughty Dog project, a much bigger studio than this team that Mumbauer had put together initially to make the game. And that's a lot of information to take in. But the main takeaway that you have to get from that is it seems like smaller studios are really struggling to make games for the PlayStation in the PS5 era. So essentially, the last of them working on The Last of Us became the last of everyone else after they were last seen.
That's the last time I'm going to try and diagram that sentence, because there's no way I'd get through it. Go to the board and diagram that. Do you remember that?
Then diagram.
I was just so afraid whenever they were like, go to the board and diagram this. No, I don't want to create the rocket ship with the things and the little. I can't do it. But I will say this. I mean, it's always sad when we run into this era where games aren't being made, or we're not seeing something because of something like money. And this is the path that you kind of go down when you say, I'm going to make a hyper realistic game, or a game that has a lot of textures and a lot of detail to it, because something like this wouldn't happen to Rocket League or Fortnite. The scaling for this is fairly simple. So there's something to be said for simplicity. And as we move into the next generation of games and people are so obsessed with the graphics have got to be amazing, that's something that we need to remember, is that a lot of these teams that are working on this, the No Man's Sky team, for the longest time was 15 people or something. That's a huge endeavor to put a AAA title on the shoulders of 15 people whose previous game was a mobile game at that. So wow. When you've got these companies and you're putting all of this weight on their shoulders, of course they're not going to be able to deliver a project that's why we're while Days Gone is was a interesting IP iteration, it just wasn't executed in a way that drew a lot of marketing attention, and maybe that's on the fault of Sony for not promoting it as much, or I like I said, I got the E3 bit, and then that was about the last thing I ever heard of Days Gone. So when these things happen, you feel for the studios, but you also have to wonder, when the studio is already struggling to begin with, cutting their budget's not going to help. This isn't going to help them succeed when you take money away from them.
Yeah. My thought is that, I mean, it's a typical matrix of business, right?
Yeah.
The small guy makes something and the big guy says, well, I didn't make that, so it can't be good enough. So when these smaller studios start creating something and they don't have the support and backup of the people who hired them, essentially, bought them, it's going to destroy the project, because it's not as simple to just take it and shift it over to the bigger company. They don't know what they've been working on. They don't know the little nuanced pieces that they put together. And that's why sometimes you see a shift in some of the games that you play. Halfway through, you'll go, this game seems kind of different now. And it's probably because it started off in a small studio and then the big studio took it over and they're missing the little nuance pieces.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to bring the small studio into the big studio to continue working on it. They're going to go, oh, thank you, honey. We'll take it from here.
Yeah.
It's like, why'd you even hire us in the first place?
Yeah, right. Well,
Yeah.
this is the thing that kind of sucks with that is that Sony bought out the Bend studio, so they were their own studio before that, and then Sony comes in, buys them out. So that's the kind of conundrum you're in, where they've come in, they've swooped in, they've bought your studio, and now they're not going to fund you anymore. They're saying no on whatever you're bringing to the table is like a huge thing. It's like, well, now you're setting us up to fail. Now what do we do? Like, do we, if that was our plan to have this kind of roadmap and then for it to be, thrown up in the air like that can be devastating for a studio. So hopefully they bounce back, right? Like that's the main thing, is that they can bounce back or look at something and say, well, maybe we'll come up with something entirely different that's not around the same, IP as Days Gone, and deliver something that's a little less taxing on us as a studio, where we don't have to meet these demands of extreme detail for games.
And that is the scummiest business practice. And it's happened before, where you'll have these smaller studios that they get thrown a lifeline by a big publisher, that saves them from bankruptcy, or it's just a deal that's too good for them to refuse. And then you see where, like, a couple months down the road, like, they don't even give them a shot. It's an intentional strategy. Just buy them, close them, disperse the assets, get them somewhere else. And then what was left of that studio is just a ghost town. And it's such a shady practice, because you're literally preying on studios that they didn't have an alternative. You know what I mean? And they reach out for that corporate handout, and of course, look what happens to them long term. And I think some developers are getting savvy to that, though, that they see that lifeline and they're like, we need to rethink. Yeah.
It'd be a good idea for them, though, instead of doing what they're doing now. They could, when they buy these new studios, obviously the studios have some type of talent, right? Like they know how to develop a game. So when you buy these smaller studios, have them develop content strictly for PS Now and PS Plus. Have them focus on creating new games. It's like, okay, we're giving you a shot. If you make enough titles that get a lot of traction on PS Now or PS Plus, then we'll put you on to the bigger studio. But if you can't do that, then I have a reason to actually let you go. I actually have a reason to cut your budget. Because right now it's just, I'm buying you to get rid of you because you're in my way.
Well, the same thing kind of happened, so this is like the Bungie dilemma, right? So Bungie was essentially, in charge of the Halo IP, and Microsoft was like, Microsoft Studios was like, okay, you're going to develop the game and it's going to be under your wing and whatnot. And as they moved on, they basically said, we want to dive in and make different content. And Microsoft was like, we're not going to fund you to make different content. We're going to fund you to make Halo. That's what we want from you, is Halo. And so you lose a lot of creative freedom when you have somebody swoop in and kind of, say, hey, we're going to fund you, but only if you make these things. So you're right. Sony could come in and easily say, we're not going to fund you for something like Days Gone. We're shifting your studio, and your studio is going to work on porting these games over to PS Now or to work on that. And essentially you'd either have to say, if they own you, you either have to say it's your way or the highway, right? Because that's what Bungie did. Bungie said, no, that's okay. We're not going to continue making Halo. We're going to branch off and make our own game and enter Destiny and enter 343 Studios. Those two kind of filled the gap of, well, this is what your role is. And that's how the corporate business world is. I know I've experienced it myself, where you come in, you expect to do one job, and they say, nope, you're going to be doing this job. You either do that job or you can leave. We'll find somebody to do it. And they will. So hopefully, hopefully this type of situation doesn't continue with Sony, and we see them really back these smaller studios, because we've seen that from Microsoft, right? Microsoft has come in and bought these smaller studios and said, we're going to give them a platform, we're going to give them funding and the things that they need to be successful. And they started swooping up tons of these small little companies, and they've actually propped them up and done a lot for them. Whereas you've got Sony, on the other hand, that is coming in and hopefully not going to give the axe. So at this point, I want Sony to take a play out of Xbox, and Microsoft's book, and say, let's lift up our small studios. Let's not just say no and throw them to the wayside and have a, somebody that we used to know, right?
Yeah.
Let's see what you can produce.
Yeah. And I think one thing we can all agree on is like a remake of Last of Us is going to happen. Like no matter what the behind the scenes action is, the quality of Last of Us 2 was too high for that to not get brought back and for that money to get made. So, and speaking of high quality, the Decent Takes podcast, for God's sake, that's my segue. And Jav, we're so glad you could come on the show and that I could hop on to Decent Takes, because it was so much fun. And
so fun. Yeah,
we got to talk about your show for a few minutes, because you're one of those podcasts that from episode 1, like, you guys brought it with the production value. Like, you've got a studio space, you're running the YouTube game really well. Tell us a little bit about how Decent Takes came to be.
Yeah, so I had a podcast about 2 years ago that was doing okay, and then my co-host just got too busy and we ended up dissolving it. And then I kind of got jaded from the podcast game, and I'm like, if I do another podcast, it's going to be me, and then I'm going to have somebody who's my co-host, but they're going to know that they're replaceable. And that's how I found Davey.
That sounds like
they're
Davey.
Replaceable.
And so a lot of the podcasts I listened to before this new kind of wave of podcasts that I've been listening to were celebrities talking about everyday life, comedy, news, society, culture, and all that stuff. And I was like, during the pandemic, I said, I can't really relate to those shows because they can just go get on a boat and go to Aruba.
Exactly.
And I'm stuck in my house. And I was like, what if there's a podcast like those, but they're for normal people who have normal jobs, live normal life? And that's how Decent Takes started, because we're like, what do we call this show? And we're like everything. We're gonna have different takes on stuff, and some will be good, some will be bad. They'll all be decent. And they're like, Decent Takes. That's the show name.
Nice.
I love it.
That's how we came. So we've been, testing out different stuff. The format we have now is what we're going to keep, but there were times where we do a calling segment where we just call random people on our phones from a random number and see what they have to say.
Classic prank calls. I love it.
Until
what are your thoughts? Start the clock.
Yeah, until somebody's says something super racist or something.
It's going to happen.
Oh, gotta cut it. So now we're on track on what we like to do. So,
well, if you ever need help with the prank calls, I am all about that. I used to do that in my youth, and by youth I mean my early 20s.
Wow.
Up into my early 20s. My favorite was I used to use a soundboard. There was a Jack Black soundboard that you could have where he's ordering chicken nuggets, and I would call up Wendy's on the West Coast. This was when I lived on the East Coast, and it'd be midnight, so it'd only be 9 o'clock on the West Coast. Call him up and be like, hold on, I'm looking at the menu here. And then try and order food from the East Coast through a Wendy's
you're the
on
worst.
the phone, and they would be like, sir, you gotta come in. We can't order from the phone. So that, or have you ever done the where you call a Chinese restaurant and you order something, but then you say, hold on, I need to put you on hold. Then you call another Chinese restaurant, right? And then you tell the first Chinese restaurant, I've done this, you tell the first Chinese restaurant to repeat the order back to you. And then you put them together.
Let the magic happen.
Let the magic
You're the
happen.
worst. Luckily, we weren't actually pranking people. It kind of felt like a prank because we just call them and they pick up and we just ask them a random question. They're like, wait, what? And I'm like, answer the question now.
You're
60 seconds
Billy on
go.
the street.
They know it's
Sir,
us,
for
though.
$1.
For $1.
Yeah, and then we switched it to telling people before we called them, and then it just wasn't as fun, so we cut it.
You're just like,
It's
whatever.
kind of lame. They're all prepared. Like,
Yeah.
See, now you gotta
Trash.
go back to you should just call like the random, there's just random Walmarts and talk to Susan back in electronics on a midnight, I mean, seriously,
Okay.
because if you call like any Walmart at like post like normal operating hours, you're just gonna get a bunch of old people that really have no clue what they're looking for, especially
Keeping
when
the
it
lights
comes to like
on.
video games.
Yeah.
You can just be like, hey Susan, do you have this video game in the back? Let me go see if I can find it.
I can't
Yeah.
wait till I call one on the West Coast, and they're like, "Hey, this is Bruno." I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, excuse me. I'm looking for a
Patreon's not
copy of.
popping yet.
I'm looking for a copy of Hogan's Castle.
Just get something completely random for me.
That was one of those
Yeah.
donkey. Was it the prank phone calls?
The big
so
chungus.
funny.
I'll take a big chungus
Yeah.
game.
Oh,
Do you
man.
have that?
But yeah, hey,
Lord.
to all of our listeners, go check out the Decent Takes podcast. Check out our collab with them, because again, this episode will be dropping at the same time that their episode, same day. And give them a follow, because you guys are you got to go places. Like, it is such a high quality podcast. The YouTube
Appreciate
feed
that.
is amazing.
I love
Like,
it.
you guys have something great going on. So just keep at it, because that is a solid entry on my pod rotation, because the talk shows, I can only take so much.
Yeah,
Right.
I think it rough a little bit.
What?
That's
you
right.
you only
Funny.
take so many of the NPRs on the next, all
Right.
things considered.
It was funny because you guys know when you make a podcast, you have tons of podcasts reaching out to you and talking to you, like, check this out. And you guys were the second podcast that I listened to in all of podcast Twitter.
Wow.
And I immediately sent it over to Davey, and I was like, these guys are like us, but smart. We need to talk to them.
We have show notes. It's not. Yeah.
And I was like, dude, we like games. Davey, you suck at games, but I think we can figure it out. And I'm like, I'm just gonna DM them and see what we can get going.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and we got that ball rolling quick. So yeah, it was really
2
great to make
hours
that.
and 20 minutes of
I
podcast
respond.
between us.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was a marathon of an episode, but the time just flew by. And yeah,
We
like
had
I was
mistakes before.
I was telling them in the pre-show, Bruno, it's crazy because they have that segment at the end where the 60-second takes.
Yeah.
And I knew that it was a segment, but when like it's completely different when someone springs a random question on you that you haven't heard, and then you say start the clock, and then like I'm looking on Zoom and like I've got the little timer like next to my head like ticking down. And it's just like I went into beast mode, man. Like the adrenaline's pumping. Like I gotta
Dude,
I gotta
did.
tell him what I'm talking about here.
Nick used to
and it
do
was-
debate in college, so
I did.
That
That was by far the best 60-second take segment we've had.
Oh, man.
Since inception of the show.
It was absolutely wild. But
We
yeah, I did.
named it Stop the Clock because of Nick.
Oh, really? I thought that
Yeah.
was like what you did.
No, we named
Start
the
the clock.
entire episode Stop the Clock.
Oh, the whole
Because
episode.
of
Yeah.
you, yeah.
I stopped saying it after a while. They're like, "Oh, you got to say it. You got to say it. Say the
Oh,
word.
yeah,
Say the word."
It was getting us so hype.
Yeah.
Like, stop the clock. I'm like,
Yeah.
let's go.
And the crazy
wait
part
till
is,
let's do
and I guess you'll listen. I won't spoil it, but at the very end, Jav throws me this curveball of like he starts making me name my favorite video game franchises, and it was a trap because then he's like, "Okay, kill off one of them,"
Oh,
and I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to." And then there's like 2 left, and he's like, "Okay, kill off another one." Like, I don't want to start the clock, Jav.
Oh man, that's I don't want to do it.
But you'll have to listen to the podcast to find out what I said because it crushed me to my core.
Oh,
You could see it in his face, too. If you watch it on YouTube, you can watch it crush his soul in
In real time.
when push comes to shove, when you've got to make
Oh,
those,
man.
it's like Sophie's choice. You didn't think that. I never thought I'd
Yeah.
have to make this choice before.
Yeah.
It's just,
Impossible
how do
decision.
I choose?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Give us some plugs, man. Where can they find you?
Yeah, find us on Twitter at Decent Takes Show on Twitter, at Decent Takes on Instagram, www.quitthebuild.com, patreon.com/quitthebuild,
I'll take it.
patreon.com/Decent Takes Show, TikTok at Decent Takes. Everything's either Decent Takes or it's Decent Takes Show. So type it in wherever you do stuff, and hopefully you'll find us. We won't be on Facebook because we're not 60. Anywhere else.
Thanks.
Just kidding. I kind of love Facebook,
I'll
but I
take
don't
that
have it
insult.
anymore.
We first made a page on Facebook, and we're just like, yeah, this isn't getting any traction. We should probably get on like Twitter and like TikTok. We make it a
It goes
TikTok
viral
account.
on TikTok the next day.
Yeah, like overnight, we're like, oh, 1,000 likes. Okay, I guess.
Okay.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah.
That's what I
We'll
said.
get-
Whatever.
But
Yeah.
yeah, awesome. Well, Job, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. This has been a
Thank you,
blast.
guys.
Great
Heck
collab. And yeah, check out their podcast, Decent Takes. It is always a good time. And Bruno, that's about it for our show for today. Thanks again so much to all of our listeners. It's been a wild ride, and we've got some exciting news starting with our next episode and just a jam-packed calendar. We've got some huge interviews coming up down the pipeline. I just wrapped up an interview with Sega Master Tim, a guy that used to work for one of those Sega like call-in hotlines back in the 90s for like tips.
Oh, nice.
Wild stuff. And so that's a can't miss interview. We'll be airing that next week.
He's got all the
and
cheat codes.
he literally does. Yeah, it's a fascinating discussion, and so much more as well. What do you got for him, Bruno?
Oh, man, just be sure to check out quitthebuild.com where you can find all of our podcast episodes. We upload an episode every Saturday and Wednesday, and you can find us all over the web. We're on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook for all those old people out there. Instagram, we've got a Discord where you can join and talk with like-minded folks, and, of course, a Patreon. Right, we've got some Patreon subscribers to thank. Nick, and Epic Capture Productions, and our newest patron, the Dudist Monk. Thank you so much. If you want to shout out at the end of every episode, plus bonus content like our Nostalgia Vault episode coming up here soon, and even exclusive merch from the Pierce Pop Art Vault. Wow! Support us today at patreon.com/quitthebuild, and you too can join the team, be part of Quit the Build. We love you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, for Nick and Job, I'm Bruno.
And for Bruno and Job, I'm Nick.
Peace out. What it do?
Booyah.
Okay, good. I was making sure I didn't have anything else to say because I'd already stopped my recording.
Oh no.
I was like, oh no. Don't say anything. Don't ask me anything. I'm done. I'm done.
Oh, great stuff.
Yeah,
Thank you
awesome.
so much, Breaking Ground, for getting us to 1,000 followers,
Twitter.
right? Yeah.
I gotta check it.
That's what they
Let's see
said.
here.
They said they did it.
1,000 followers. We got there.
What?
David Singer is the 1,000th follower.
Man, can you believe it?
Wow.
Do you believe
Can't
in miracles? I do.
Great
Okay.
stuff.
Holy.
That's a clean 4 numbos right there. Awesome. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. We appreciate it. And yeah, definitely check out the Decent Takes podcast. We are all about it, and definitely one of our favorite podcasts to listen to.
Appreciate that, my friends.
Yeah, you got it. You got it. And we got to get you on those Twitter Spaces, man.
I know, dude. I was so mad.
Like when we got the invite, and I'm like, okay, like, can I give it to other people? Like, I don't want to be the only, like, why? Like, I'm humbled, but like, okay, but it's been fun. Now we've been doing live QTB hangouts there, and we're looking to maybe do that like once or twice a week, to just like casual, just pop in and talk about whatever.
I'm gonna crash yours until I get my own. So
I was gonna say, yeah, because they're
like
saying
an invite or something, like an invite code. You could just like,
Clubhouse has.
That's what they
They're
had.
saying-
They've had that with so many things. Spotify originally had that. Facebook, like, links only.
Right. Yeah, but they're saying like to get access to it, like if you join other people's spaces, like it increases the chances or whatever of
But
like
here's
you
the
getting
thing.
invited. I was never anywhere
You're
near
the
it.
only person with a space near me.
Yeah,
I even like searched spaces and there's nobody with one. I'm like, it's just got to be for the top tier podcast, obviously.
obviously,
Oh yeah,
No.
that's yep.
most influential podcast in gaming. Of course,
Yep,
we're gonna get a Twitter
Honduras'
space.
number
What did
one
you do?
video game
Number
podcast.
1, baby. For a week.
Oh, for a week, we will take it. Thank you for
We will
those
never
2
run
people
it
from
back.
Honduras. And I got to tell you, we're still up there at the UK too. Apparently, the UK is a fan of Quit the Build. They probably were searching something else though. Like it's probably like a weird non sequitur over there or something that they just Like
Probably like
cockney.
a anti-construction group.
Oh boy.
Quit the build. Stop taking our forests.
Unionizing. Yeah.
This isn't the political movement I was looking for.
We're just talking about video games.
That's
We're
it.
just talking about video game. Son of a gun. Oh man, I'm gonna clip that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, everybody.
Thanks so
Call it a
much, stream peoples. We will be back. We do a stream every Friday and Tuesday. Tuesday and Friday. How about them apples?
Let me do it.
That's when we do it.
Yep.
Quick turnaround too. Holy.
Oh man, we don't play. We don't play.
All right, you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Be sure to check out the podcast episode tomorrow for decent takes and quit the build. We appreciate you guys so much. Peace out. What it do?
See ya.
Peace.